newly listed. I'm your host, Barrington Miller from the Canadian Securities Exchange, and today I'm here with Erik Anderson, President and CEO of Fiore Cannabis. Welcome to the show, Erik.
Thank you for having me.
Uh, Tell us a little bit about Fiore Cannabis.
Well, we are a U.S. multi-state operator. We've got revenue generating operations in California, in the Palm Springs and Coachella Valley, as well as in Las Vegas. We've got a 10,000 square foot cultivation and production facility in Las Vegas. So we've focused ourselves around those two states. We believe that both of those states are two of the best in the U.S. and indeed in the world for this type of product line. We've focused all of our efforts by divesting some non-core assets in Washington State and in Canada. And really, we're focused entirely on California, where we have a retail dispensary. And we also have 2.5 acres of land that we have engineering designs on turning into a cultivation and production facility around 40,000 square feet. And then in Las Vegas, in that market, we are a cultivation and production facility, and we're in discussions with regards to acquiring a retail dispensary as well, too. So our long-term strategy is to be vertically integrated in California and in Nevada.
Now, this isn't your first go around. Fiore Cannabis has undergone a name and symbol change. Why the change?
Well, really, if you turn the clock back about a year, the board approached me and said, "Hey, you've got a lot of experience in the cannabis sector. We want to do a complete turnaround of this business." So that included myself hiring a new CFO, putting a new board together. We've reached out to pretty much everybody in our networks that had substantial cannabis experience, mostly from the Canadian market. But again, coming into sort of the marketing aspect of our business now, what we've identified is that really the name, our previous name, didn't really reflect who we were as a company. It didn't really reflect where we were going as a company. Fiore comes from, we have an award-winning strain down in the Las Vegas market where last year we won a Cannabis Cup for our Fiore Super Glue. And in all of our machinations of figuring out what our new name and our new symbol and our new logo was going to look like, we stumbled upon something that we already had. So we really like the name. It's Italian for flower. It sort of stands for class. It stands for high top shelf type products, and that's sort of who we think we are. So Fiore it is.
Oh, what's old is new again. And no, that's a nice story. What about your team and the people that sort of help make up Fiore?
Well, it's one of the things that I've learned in business that really does start with people. So what I did when I was tapped as the new CEO is I went out and found a CFO who was young and energetic and had already a ton of cannabis experience in Canada from more on the retail side. On our board of directors, I identified people that were already in the business and really going back to around that 2012, 2013 state of affairs and watching that Canadian bull run on the stock exchange for Canadian producers, cultivars, and retailers. So we've got a great deal of experience sort of from the retail side. We've got a great deal of experience from the cultivation side. And we assembled that board of directors and added to it slowly over the first few months of 2020. So now we think that we've got the management team and the board of directors that's got a sound fundamentals and just basic business. Just a lot of our board of directors and our management team are successful business people in their own right. And we really did want to find those people with cannabis experience. There was a lot of lessons learned in the Canadian bull run up to 2018, 2019. There's been a lot of lessons learned since then in terms of sound business fundamentals and the types of things that you want to, inject into your business as an intrinsic fundamental building block. This is definitely a turnaround story, but we think that even with the pandemic this year in 2020, we've been able to achieve our goals well ahead of schedule, and we're heading into 2021 with a ton of momentum.
California, multi-state operator, U.S. cannabis. There's a lot of players in the space, and there's a lot that are listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange. What's your differentiator?
It really is several fold. So I'll start in California, where in Desert Hot Springs, we have a retail store that actually is up about 15% in revenues this year in 2020. The reason for that is that we have sort of a medical therapeutic customer base that is very loyal to the store. Our bud tenders and our management at the store are very consultative, very focused on wellness. It's called Green Leaf Wellness. And what we've done since the pandemic occurred, thankfully, California and Nevada both deemed cannabis to be an essential service, but we added some additional ancillary types of services to our clientele. We added a delivery service. We added a express pickup window, and we added curbside pickup as well too. We also increased our marketing on Google and Weed Maps, and kind of gave the storefront a little bit of a splash of fresh paint, and kind of did a bit of a makeover there. Did some billboard advertising in the Coachella Valley. Again, there's a lot of people in the Coachella Valley that go there or that live there for the wellness reasons, right? They're into things like outdoor sports, hot yoga, types of wellness programs that we've actually partnered with certain therapeutic organizations to include cannabis as a medicinal sort of an aspect. Now, our retail sales for adult recreational use have still been very strong there as well too. But I think it's really the alternative delivery methods and just kind of focusing on our core clientele, which is really a person who's more interested in the wellness and medicinal side of this plant. So that's been a great success story for us this year in California. If I shift over to Nevada, we're one of the few cultivators that grow in soil, and we grow in an organic living soil. And that means that our yields are going to be really high. But more importantly, the Las Vegas market, they're really all about high THC percentages. So our testing comes in definitely north of 26%. And definitely, in some of our strains, we can get north of 30% THC content. That's really what the market in Las Vegas is all about. And Las Vegas, a little bit unlike California, they kind of went into a fairly big close down at the retail and dispensary level in most notably in April and May. That really saw the decline in sales, but because we are a cultivator and a production company there, what we were able to do is take all of our harvests from basically April forward in 2020 and just put them into our 2.0 products, such as our vape pens, our concentrates, and some edible lines as well too. So we've been continuing to generate products that are now going out to market. So we didn't lose any revenue. We just got delayed a little bit on revenue. Thankfully, the state opened up a little bit more in the summer. And if you look at the statistics, the Nevada retail market's kind of gone back to its pre-COVID levels. So it's kind of bounced back. And one of the major surprises to me was that the tourism industry is still sort of hovering around 30, maybe 40% down there right now. And there's actually a strong local support for the legalized cannabis business, specifically in Las Vegas, where the locals have really propped up the industry since the pandemic, and it's been a great surprise for most of us who are really focused on that Las Vegas market.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't know was happening or that did happen. It's
Well, the
uh,
the other thing I would tell you about Las Vegas is I've been looking at some numbers. So, we're Canadians, and we know that we have a relatively, call it 36, 38 million people in our country. If you look at this, the Bureau of Tourism statistics for Las Vegas over the last 5 years, the average number of visitors that they get on an annual basis is 42 million people. It's about 120,000 people a day on planes arriving into Las Vegas. They're looking at one thing, they're looking to have a good time, right? And so the retail experience in Las Vegas, especially around the strip,
yeah.
it's really geared towards cannabis as we've all envisioned it would be in a legalized framework. It's fun, it's highly marketed, the branding and the packaging is meets
Oh,
everybody's
we
expectations.
we noticed when we flew into MJ Biz um, right off the plane, and it was on taxi cabs and billboards, and there's definite rules concerning advertising in Canada, but not there. It's a lot different.
We actually think that Las Vegas is the best market in the world for this, and it's not just because their average annual visitors are a higher number than all of Canada. Statistics Canada says that there's roughly about 5 million Canadians who consume cannabis, and let's just even double that number for sake of including the black market or the gray market. So let's call it a a 10 million person market in Canada. We're dealing with a 40 million person market in Nevada. And we're seeing that the wholesale margins for, like a cultivation or production house like ourselves selling into the retail dispensaries, those margins are 3 to 4 times higher than what we see in Canada. And at the retail level, and you've been there, you've probably been lined up at a dispensary at 10:30 at night for a half an hour because that's how busy they are.
Yep.
Their retail margins there are at least 3 to 5 times the size, larger than what we see in Canada. And again, if you just compare 10 million people in Canada who consume to 42 million visitors a year, we think that the Las Vegas market alone is much larger than all of Canada.
No, I would definitely agree. And I hope we get to return there in some iteration sooner rather than later. Let's move on to your milestones and things investors or soon to be investors have to look forward to with Fiore Cannabis.
So I've got a history in my career of either starting companies or of turning companies around to profitability. So the first thing that myself and Kevin Cornish, our new CFO, did is we did a SWOT analysis. We traveled to all of our assets, met all of our people, and what we decided was that we needed to divest of our non-core assets, and that was our 13 acres of land and buildings in Washington State, and that was our BC property here in Canada. So we've fully divested the Washington asset. We've got a definitive agreement with a group looking to buy and close soon on our Solista BC asset as well. What we wanted to do is just focus on those two markets, Nevada and California. The other thing that we've been doing along the way too is really cleaning up our balance sheet. So as we head into 2021, I would say that you're going to see a very low debt profile on our balance sheet. It's going to be very clean. And we are projecting in Q1 of 2021 to be cash flow positive. So what we've done is throughout the period of the pandemic, we've increased our retail sales in California by about 15%. So that's taken us to profitability in that state. And in Nevada, like I said, we've pretty much taken all of our flower production and turned it into 2.0 concentrates, vape pens, edibles, and that's just going out to market now. So we're expecting to have a really good start to the new year in 2021 with 3 strong harvests and some ancillary 2.0 products hitting the market and the shelves in January. And then we expect to be cash flow positive for the entire year on a quarter-over-quarter basis. So that's a fundamental change. We think that we kind of want to be regarded as a bit of a unicorn or the best kept secret in the US multi-state operator cannabis space, because we're going to have a strong balance sheet and we're going to have profitable growth that stems from our positive cash flow. And any type of growth into the future that where we would need to raise some money, we're going to do that in a fashion that's going to be designed on profitable growth. For instance, our Las Vegas cultivation and production facility, which is 10,000 square feet today, it's actually on 7 acres of land. And we've had architectural and engineering drawings drawn up that we can actually take that 10,000 square feet to about 85,000 square feet. And that $10 million in revenue potential, we can take that to about $55-60 million in revenue potential out that way. So we're very excited that we're going to have a clean balance sheet. People are just waking up, especially with the new ticker change and the new name change to Fiore. We have got a ton of momentum heading into 2021, and we couldn't be happier with our progress.
Well, thank you so much for that, Erik Anderson from Fiore Cannabis. I've been your host, Barrington Miller, with the Canadian Securities Exchange. And today we were discussing not going to be the best kept secret anymore with Fiore Cannabis trading proudly on the CSE. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.